Hello, I'm Cath. My channel is made by Cath Crafts. Thank you very much for joining me for my latest video. This video is going to be a sewing makes video, and it's quite overdue, I think, because when I was looking back on my YouTube channel and what videos I filmed, the last makes video I did was for January, so I haven't done one since January. So I've got February, March and sort of half of April where I've been sewing up garments, and I haven't done a little summary each month of what I've been sewing. So I thought I'd stick all those garments into one video, this video, and just bring you up to date on what I've been making. So it might be a little bit of a longer video because I have been making quite a few things, but hopefully it should be an enjoyable one because there's quite a variety of things I've been making, and I'm looking forward to sharing them all with you. And it's nice to be back on actually after I had a little break. It was the Easter holidays here and we went away for the week. My husband had the week off work, my children were obviously off school, and we went to Wales for the week, which is lovely. I love Wales. The weather it wasn't perfect Easter sort of sunshine or anything. It was quite wet and windy, but we had a really nice time still, and there was one lovely sunny day where we managed to make it down to a local beach at Tenby. It's a beach I hadn't been to before, but it was lovely, really beautiful, lovely and sheltered, so we had a nice day there. So yeah, it was a good holiday, but it is really nice to be back home now and back on with you guys and sharing some sewing. So that's my plan for this video. All of the makes over the last 2 to 3 months. What I did think was, because I've also sewn a few things for my children over the last few months, I thought I wouldn't include them in this video. I've talked about them a bit, I think, in my sort of weekly sewing catch-up videos, and they've popped up here and there then, but in this video I've decided to focus just on things that I've been sewing for myself. So that's the plan. So before I get started talking about all those garments I've been sewing over the last 2 to 3 months, I'll start off with what I'm wearing today. And today I just threw on a pair of jeans and a black top for the school run, and then I thought maybe I'll jazz it up a little bit with a handmade sort of top layered over the top. So the top I'm wearing today, you might recognise the sort of V shape of this one. It's this pattern here, the Ogden Cami by True Bias. It's a pattern I really love for a woven cami top. I'm sure it's one you're familiar with, but I think it's always nice to see a picture. It's got this deep V at the front and the back. It's got spaghetti straps and little facing on the inside. And it's got a really good size range. I've got I think it's the US 0 to 18 version, but there's also a US 14 to 30 size range too that has bust darts and slightly wider straps. They're the variations on that one. Yeah, the version I'm wearing today, I made out of scraps I had left over from another project. I originally used this fabric to make a sort of pinafore dress by hacking the Ogden Cami. And then I discovered I had just enough left over to make this little cami top too, so I was quite pleased. I didn't have quite enough for the facing on the inside, so I just used some plain black cotton lawn I had left over from another project for the facing, but I had enough for the front and back pieces and the straps. And I think it's quite a cute little cami top and quite a nice wintry one. I think the Ogden Cami pattern works really well all year round because you can wear it just on its own as a nice summery cami top when the weather's hot. But I think it's a great piece for layering in the winter. And I think it does just make a sort of simple jeans and top outfit a little bit more fun. And the version I'm wearing today, this fabric, is a Mind the Maker viscose fabric. I think it might be viscose twill. It's got that twill weave to it. I got it from Minerva. I'm not sure if it's still in stock anymore. If it is, I will link it below. But it's got this really cute sort of gold hoop design on it, which I think is quite nice and a bit different. And yeah, because it's a dark colour, I think it goes quite well as a winter layering piece. So I'll pop up a picture so you can see what it looks like on. I think I might have sized up one size on my measurements for this version because I thought I'd probably wear it more as a layering piece. So I wanted a bit of room underneath to be able to fit another top like I'm wearing it today. And I think I also widened the straps slightly to make them slightly less spaghetti strap, just because I thought it would suit the fabric and maybe suit the way I was planning to wear it as a layering piece rather than a summery cami top more for this one. But that is what I'm wearing today. But anyway, I'll get on now with sharing what I've been making over the last 2 to 3 months. I better start talking about those makes, otherwise this video will be very, very long indeed. So in this video, I thought I'd talk about my makes roughly in the order in which I sewed them. So I'm going to start off with one of my earlier makes that I think I sewed up towards the beginning of February, which seems like quite a long time ago now. And this is quite a wintry make, which is obviously very appropriate for the weather in February. And it's actually still quite appropriate for the weather we're having here at the moment. Today is very overcast outside. It was quite cold overnight and I had my big coat on when I went out on the school run this morning. So I could definitely still get some more wear out of this dress now before the weather hopefully heats up sometime soon. And it's a dress that I'd made a few years ago in a different fabric. And I wanted to revisit the pattern because it's one I really love and I don't know why I hadn't revisited it sooner really. And it's a pattern from this book here, the Stretch Book by Tilly and the Buttons, which has lots of patterns in designed for sewing with knit fabrics. And the pattern I wanted to make was a variation on one of my favourite patterns, which is the Freya top and dress, which is this pattern here. It's a fairly close-fitting top and dress pattern. If you make the dress, it's got this nice A-line skirt. This is a sort of standard version with this mock turtleneck neckline. I've made quite a few of these, quite a few tops and a few dresses too. But there's another version that I've only made once, a variation on the neckline. Yeah, that's the one I really wanted to revisit with this dress. So I'll show you the variation. It is this cowl neck option here. I really love a cowl neck and I think the Freya dress with a cowl neck is really cute. So that's the one I wanted to make this February. I should mention the sizing on this book. It goes from a UK 6 up to a UK 20. So it's in Tilly and the Buttons' old size range. So it's a little bit limited on that front, but it's a lovely pattern. I find it's one that just fits me quite nicely and it's quite a speedy, satisfying sew too. So it's often a great pattern for me to go to, I find, if I've got a bit of a lost my sew a little bit and I want to sew up something quick to kind of give me a bit of enthusiasm back for sewing, maybe in a fun fabric or just to make like a basic. It's a great one for that. But yeah, the version I made in this February is the dress version with a cowl neck in this cute dotty fabric. Here it is. It's been folded up, so it's a little bit, yeah, folded looking. It's this really cute navy cotton jersey with white tiny little dots on. I was gifted this fabric by Minerva in exchange for a blog post that I popped up on their website talking all about the fabric and the pattern, and I'll link that down below in case you fancy having a read. But yeah, I just thought I'd make quite a cute sort of everyday dress in this fabric. It's one I thought I'd get a lot of wear out of, and I thought it was a nice wintry fabric, and this is definitely a really wintry dress because the cowl neck is quite sort of thick and cozy. You sort of make it with two sides of the fabric, so it means when it sort of hangs down, you don't get any back of the fabric showing or anything. But it does mean it is quite cozy around your neck, which is lovely for colder weather. So this is my version. I think I made a size 2 on the bust and waist, and then I graded out, I think maybe to a size 2.5 or something around the hips, just to give me a little bit more room there, because I think my hips measurement might put me in a slightly higher size category than my waist and my bust. My measurements are bust 32, waist 26, hips 36, and I think from memory the size 2 is maybe designed for bust 32, waist 26 and hips 35. I think, actually, you know what I think I did actually? I think what I did was I cut out the straight size 2 and then I just narrowed the seam allowance a little bit around the hips to essentially give me a bit more room there without having to retrace out the pattern, which I'd already traced out in the size 2. So that's how I did it. Rather than actually grading, I just took in the seam allowance a little bit as I went down from the waist, and that worked out really well. So yeah, this is my cowl neck Freya, my second version. I've really enjoyed wearing this one. It's really nice and comfy, being a jersey dress. The fabric is lovely and soft, and yeah, it's washed well as well. I'll put up a picture so you can see what it looks like on. Yeah, it was just a fun, fairly speedy make, and one I know that I'll get a lot of wear out of going forward, just because, yeah, it's just quite a nice classic day dress and nice and cosy too. So the next garment that I sewed up in February is one that I'd had on my list to sew up for quite a long time. And it's actually a remake of a garment that I'd made a few years ago. And I pretty much worn that garment to death, to the point where it got very tatty. And I was quite sad about it getting tatty because it's one I'd loved, hence why I'd worn it so much. And I saw the fabric was still available, and there was a special offer on one weekend. It was a fabric I got from Minerva. They had one of their VIP craft club weekends, I think, where you get 20% off lots of fabrics. So I thought, right, while there's a special offer on, I'm going to get some more of that fabric. I'm going to start a new version. I'll probably wear this version to death too, because it's just one that I love and I find I wear all year round. And it's a skirt that I made using this pattern here, which is Estuary skirt pattern by Sew Liberated. This is definitely one of my favourite skirt patterns. It's one I really enjoy wearing. It's a bit like the Ogden cami. I find it's a skirt pattern that I wear all year round. So it's for a skirt with a flat fronted waistband and elasticated back. So it's quite nice and comfy to wear. It's got quite a full sort of gathered skirt to it, and this button placket down the front, which you can make as a faux placket because you don't need to open the buttons to get it on because of the elastic. And you can make it in different lengths, and it comes with optional patch pockets and also optional side seam pockets too. And it sews up really nicely, and I love the swish of it. And like I said, I love how you can wear it through the year. I often wear my estuary skirts with a vest top in summer, and I often team them with a chunky jumper, often one of my cropped Nina Lee South Bank sweaters in winter. And so the version I remade is this one here, in this really lovely fabric. It's another Mine the Maker fabric actually, like the one I'm wearing for my Ogden cami. And I can't remember what it's called. I think actually this is out of stock in quite a few colourways now, but it might still be available in 1 or 2 colourways. If it is, I will link it down below. But this is a sort of gold colourway. And I just love this skirt. Yeah, as you can see, I've added on the placket here with little black buttons. I actually just repurposed the buttons for my first version of this because the first version really had worn out, and I think the final straw for it was we'd gone to London for a weekend, and I'd had like a sort of canvas bag that I was holding that was sort of rubbing against it for a whole day. We did a lot of steps that day, and it had gone all bobbly and worn there, but the whole thing really had faded because I'd worn it and washed it so many times. So this one is lovely and bright and vivid. As you can see, it's got a lovely swish to it, and you can see I've liked to make a sort of mini skirt version of the estuary skirt, which isn't one of the lengths on the pattern, but it's really easy just to chop it off, and it means it's a bit less fabric hungry too, which is great. So yeah, it's got the elasticated back waistband, which makes it really comfy, and the flat front, which I think is quite a nice feature. I added on the inseam pockets, which I find really handy. They're here somewhere. Yep, there they are. You can see them in there. And I'm just really happy to have this skirt back in my wardrobe, although ridiculously, since I've made it, I haven't worn it that much because I don't want to spoil it. But I just need to wear it and enjoy it again because I love it, and I just find it so easy to style with like a black top and black tights and things. So yeah, perfect all year round. So that's my second make. Oh, I should mention the sizing. The estuary skirt has a really good size range. It goes from a size 0 up to a size 30, which takes you from a waist of 25 inches up to a waist of 48.5 inches. I think whenever I make this skirt, I've sized down one size. That was because the first version I made came out a bit big, so I just ended up sizing down for all other versions. But actually, I think it's quite an easy one to sort of fit because you put in the elastic at quite a late stage. So if it's a bit too big, you can just pull the elastic a bit tighter, or if it's a bit too small, you can just add a bit more elastic in to give a bit more room at the back. So it's quite a flexible one, I think, on the sizing, and there's loads of space in the hips, obviously, because it's really swishy. So yeah, that is my version 2 of my Mine the Maker estuary skirt. I'm really pleased I did so. It wasn't my most favourite sew ever because I felt like it's not something new and exciting because it was the same fabric again. It was pretty much a remake, but sometimes it's just lovely with sewing that you can remake things that do wear out and when you love that piece of clothing. So I'll put in a photo of me wearing it so you can see what it looks like 1 and 2. So that was my second make for February. So the next make that I've got to share is something else that I sewed up for myself. But this is not a garment. It's actually, I guess, what I call a mini organisational system for some of my clothes. And it's been really, really useful, and also it was a really fun sew too. So I decided to set up some little fabric baskets to organise all of my pairs of tights. Because I have quite a few pairs of tights. I do love wearing a skirt and a dress, and tights are definitely essential here in the winter. I've got thicker pairs and thinner pairs, and I've got different colours. And I felt like I was spending a lot of time wading through my tights drawer and pulling out tights and looking at them in the light and trying to figure out if they were navy blue or black. And I thought, right, I need to organise these tights. And I thought fabric baskets would be a great way to go. So I sewed up 3 little fabric baskets, and here they are. And here's one which holds my sort of random tights in there. There's some elf tights, some sort of textured tights, and a few pairs of sort of nude tights, as it were. Then I've got a pink basket which has in my black tights, and a blue basket which has in my navy blue tights. And they've just been so handy, these little baskets, and they're a really cute, fun little sew too. They've got these little square bottoms. They're kind of lined. I line them with the same fabric, although you could choose different fabric for the inside. And I sewed these up using a free pattern that I found online. I thought there must be a few free patterns out there for this sort of thing, so I just went on Google and had a little search. And I came across a free pattern on hellosewing.com. I'll link it down below. And what I particularly liked about that pattern, other than that the instructions look nice and clear, was that you could open up this little table, an Excel table, within the sort of pattern instructions, and you could actually input in how big you wanted the dimensions of your fabric baskets to be, and then it would tell you what size fabric pieces you needed to cut out, which is great because a few other patterns I found online had, you know, if you want to make this size, cut out this size fabric, or this size, cut out this size fabric, and the measurements weren't quite what I wanted to be able to fit in my drawer. So with this pattern I could use just the right measurements. So they fit perfectly, one in front of the other in my drawer. And they sewed up really nicely. I do like a crafty project sometimes that's not a garment, as a break from normal garment sewing. And I used some quilting cotton that I had left over. I originally used some of these, they were fat quarters I bought originally to make a quilt for my daughter, and I had a few left over, so I thought they'd make perfect little tights holders. I thought I'd make them different colours, just so I definitely remembered that the blue one was for the blue tights and that sort of thing. I think it's quite cute, this fabric, actually. And they just sewed up really nicely. I think I interfaced one side, just the outside of the fabric basket. I think the pattern called for you to interface both the inside and outside, but I thought I probably didn't need to, and I thought I'd save my interfacing, so I just interfaced the outside. So they've got a bit of softness to them, but they hold their shape once they're full of tights. And then I just sort of stitched on the top here, just to sort of make sure that they kind of, I guess, yeah, didn't sort of fold in or anything, and they held that sort of shape at the top too. I think you can also fold them down like this. And then I guess if you'd made the baskets with a different lining, it'd be quite a nice little feature to see the lining peeping over. But I wanted to keep mine nice and simple, but they really have revolutionised my tights drawer, so I'm really pleased that I made those. And yeah, I enjoyed making them too. So I think we're moving into March now in terms of my makes. I think this next make I might have sewed up towards the beginning of March. And this next make is a garment that I've been wanting to sew up for quite a while. I'd had it in my mind. And when I first thought I'd like to sew this up, I'd had a look online at a few different fabric shops to see if I could find the fabric I had in my head, and hadn't found anything quite right. You know how it is sometimes. So I put this one on the back burner. And then First of Fabrics popped up an Instagram post early this year with a new fabric range of theirs, which came in a few different colourways. And one of the colourways looked just right and what I was looking for. So I went straight over to the website and ordered some and sewed up this garment. And it's a t-shirt that I made using this pattern here, which is the Solar Sweater and Tee pattern by Papercut Patterns. I'm sure you've heard me talk about this one before. It's a real TNT pattern for me. I've got the old pattern envelope, so it used to be called the Kyoto Sweater and Tee, but it's since been rebranded, and I think they extended the size range slightly too. I think it now comes in a UK 6 to 20, which isn't the biggest size range ever still, but I think my version started from UK 8, and I've always made the UK 8 size. But anyway, it's a lovely pattern. I'll show you the line drawings. It's for quite a boxy, straight fit t-shirt and sweater. If you make the sweater, you can add on the kind of cuffs and bottom band. It's got a fairly sort of wide neck, and just a lovely boxy, relaxed fit, and you can add on a little ruffle into the dropped shoulder as a lovely little feature, and I've added that ruffle on to a few versions, but I just love the t-shirt as a basic simple t-shirt without the ruffle too. I like how it's quite boxy and oversized. I just find I wear my Solar tees quite a lot. Yeah, I've always made the size 8 based on this older pattern at the smallest size, and I quite like that fit on me. It's quite a nice relaxed fit. So here is my latest version I made using this fabric from First of Fabrics I really loved. It's a stripy version, and I'd wanted a stripy version for a while. So I went for the white and sort of navy striped version, although I think it's actually an off-white colour. I'd originally ordered white ribbing, and then First of Fabrics recommended the ecru ribbing. I think it's ecru. I'll link it down below, which actually goes really well with, I guess it must be an off-white and a sort of slightly softer white colour. So this is my new Solar tee, and I love it. I know I'm going to wear this one lots. I think it'll work really well through the year. It took a bit of time sewing, although it's quite a simple pattern to sew, just because of the stripe matching. So I took a bit of time over my stripes, as you can see here, just to get them nice and matched up all nicely. And yeah, it's just quite a nice boxy, simple tee that I know I'm going to really enjoy wearing, either just paired with a pair of jeans and a cardi, or maybe a pair of shorts in summer. It's just a really comfy one to wear. I love a drop shoulder, and I just really like this pattern. And I'll put a picture up of me wearing it so you can see what it looks like on. I was really happy when First Fabrics posted this fabric because there are a lot of stripy fabrics out there, but I love the fact that it's yarn dyed. And I just like the sort of size of the stripes, not sort of too narrow, but not too thick, just right for what I was looking for this t-shirt. So the next make that I've got to share is one that I made using a pattern that was new to me that I hadn't sewn before, but that I've been wanting to give a go for quite a while. And I finally got it for Christmas, and then I've pretty much been waiting for the right fabric to come along. And it is this pattern here, the Maeve skirt pattern by True Bias. I really love True Bias patterns. I always find them enjoyable to sew, and I really like their whole aesthetic. And when they released the Maeve skirt, I thought it was right up my street. So it's a woven skirt pattern that's quite gathered and pulled in by an elasticated waist, so nice and comfy. And it's got a optional drawstring you can add, and also inseam pockets. And it's a really versatile pattern because you can make it in different lengths and also add on different ruffles to kind of create different styles of skirt. So I thought it'd be quite versatile and definitely a pattern I could see myself using more than once to create quite different looking skirts. So you can make an above the knee version, a midi version or a maxi version, and choose different numbers of tiers. So for this mini version, you can make it using 2 tiers rather than just 1 tier like this picture shows. So yeah, quite a lot of flexibility to this pattern. It's also got a really good size range. I've got the US 0 to 18 version, and there's also a US 14 to 30 version. So I had the pattern, I was waiting for the right fabric to come along, and then Atelier Dupe got in touch with me because they were launching their spring-summer collection of fabrics and patterns, and they offered me the opportunity of sewing with one of their new fabrics. And I saw one of their fabrics and thought it would make a really lovely Maeve skirt, and I couldn't wait to sort of put that pattern and fabric combination together. And here is my Maeve skirt that I made using this lovely Atelier Dupe viscose fabric. It's a really lightweight, swishy viscose, so I think perfect for a little summer skirt. It's got this sort of pink and blue tie-dye to it. I think it is called pink and blue tie-dyed viscose. I'll link it down below, like I will do all of the fabrics in this video where possible. I just thought it would make a really cute summery Maeve skirt, so that's what I did. So as you can see, I went for the above the knee length version. It's a sort of length I really like to wear. It's got the elasticated waist. I added on the tie at the front, and I've got the pockets too. And it's sewed up really nicely. And yeah, I just love this fabric. I think it is just perfect for a summery skirt. In terms of sizing, I decided to go for the size 4 on this pattern based on my hip measurement. And my waist measurement would put me as a size 0. But I thought if I went with a size 4, it would ensure there's plenty of room around the hips, because I thought with all the tiers potentially being added, probably the top tier wouldn't be super duper gathered, otherwise the tiers would get very large very quickly. So I wanted to make sure there was plenty of room and plenty of swish in that top tier. So I went based on my hip measurement, and then I pretty much just adjusted the elastic on the waist to bring it in slightly more. So it might be a little bit more gathered in terms of the waist fabric than intended, but I quite like that anyway. That's fine with me. So yeah, this is my version. I did make a couple of adjustments in terms of the length of the tiers. I decided to lengthen the top tier by 2 inches and shorten the bottom tier by 2 inches, just because I quite like the idea of playing with the ruffle length and making a sort of smaller ruffle at the bottom. So it's a slight variation on the pattern, but that was really easy to make that adjustment. So the overall length is as the sort of pattern intended for the above the knee version. It's just the length of the tiers that's varied slightly. And I also made one other adjustment to this bottom ruffle here. As well as shortening it by 2 inches, I also widened it slightly, just to give a little extra swish to this bottom tier. I basically widened it so that it ended up being 1.5 times wider than the width of this top skirt piece. And I'm really happy with how that turned out. When I wear it, it's got a lovely swish and a bit of weight to the bottom from this extra gathered bottom ruffle. And I'll put up a picture of me wearing it so you can see what it looks like on. I really enjoyed sewing this one, so much so that I've actually made a second Maeve skirt version, which is quite different to this one, which I'll be sharing later in this video. So the next make that I've got to share is another garment that I made using a totally new to me pattern. And I've really enjoyed trying some new patterns over the last month or so. I've got one more make to share actually that was a new to me pattern too, that I also made in April. But this one is a pattern that had really passed me by. I wasn't aware of it until I saw Lauren from Guthrie Garney wearing a beautiful version of this pattern, this top. And she'd made it in a gorgeous fabric godmother fabric that I know has been around for a while. I'd seen quite a few people making really beautiful garments using this fabric, and I thought for a while I'd love to sew something up using this fabric myself, but I just couldn't imagine in my mind what to make out of it to sort of do the fabric justice for me. And then I saw Lauren wearing this top that she made using this fabric, and I thought it was a perfect pattern and fabric match, and I decided I really wanted to make my own version, totally inspired by her. So the pattern is this one here. It's a Fibre Mood pattern, their Tanita top. It's a really cute top and quite a simple, speedy sew, and you can make it in stretch or woven fabrics, which I think is quite cool, so quite a versatile one as well. But it's a cropped top with this boat neckline and grown on sleeves, and then the cuffs and the hemband are both elasticated. And I think the style of this top could be quite different depending on whether you chose quite a drapey fabric or something with a bit more body to it. It could look quite different either way. And it's got a really good size range to it. It goes from an extra small up to a triple XL, which takes you from a bust of 30 inches up to a bust of 58.4 inches. And Fibre Mood patterns group their sizes, so size 4 and 6 both fall under the extra small category, and then it goes up like that, so they kind of group them. And my measurements would put me on the larger end of the extra small category, but I went with the extra small because it does say in this pattern if you're not fond of loose cuts, just go a size smaller, so it is designed to be a bit oversized, so I thought I'd rather go on the larger end of the smaller size rather than size up and it be really, really roomy. But anyway, it's a really nice pattern. As I said, it sews up quite quickly. You only need to cut out a front piece and a back piece and then some bias binding to finish the neckline. And it was a nice, enjoyable sew. I got the PDF version of this pattern from the Fold line. I'll link it down below, which is quite nice because if you buy PDF Fibre Mood patterns, they come with seam allowances included. Whereas when I bought a magazine in the past, they don't come with the seam allowances and you have to add them, which is okay, but it's just an extra step in the process. So yeah, I got the PDF version, got it all printed out and sewn up, and I'll show you my Fibre Mood Tanita top, which is totally inspired by Lauren. And here it is. Here is my Tanita top, which I really, really love. So I just love this fabric. I think it is so beautiful. It is the Fabric Godmother Joni Stripe Floral fabric. You've probably seen it before. I think it's a real standout print with this sort of large scale stripe on it. And you can get it in different colourways as well. I've gone for the cream colourway. There's also a navy base, I think, and a pink base, which are both lovely, but I've always had a real soft spot for this cream colour. I just think it works so well with the florals and it really shows them off. So I love it, and I think this top is so simple. It works so well with this pattern, which is quite a bold, strong pattern. I did take a while cutting out quite carefully to make sure the stripes would be nice and horizontal and look really even at each side. There's a back as well. And yeah, I just love this top. There was a little bit of mishap on the fabric. Lauren made her version in the viscose base of this fabric, and there's also a cotton lawn base. And I'd ordered from Fabric Godmother the viscose base, planning to totally replicate Lauren's top. When the fabric arrived, I got it pre-washed, I started cutting out, and I thought this is behaving really well for viscose. It's not as shifty as I'm used to. And then a penny dropped in my mind after I cut it out, and I thought maybe it isn't actually viscose, maybe this is the cotton lawn. And I got in touch with Fabric Godmother, and it turns out they sent me the cotton lawn base rather than the viscose base. It's just one of those things that happen. And they were very good about it. They ended up sending me the viscose version, and I explained to them that I'd already cut out this top because I hadn't even realised it wasn't viscose. I feel a bit silly now that I hadn't realised, but you know, it's one of those things where it turns up and you kind of just go with it and you don't think it will be anything different. So yeah, in the end my top isn't exactly the same as Lauren's. I made it in cotton lawn rather than viscose, unintentionally, but actually I love how it's come out. This cotton lawn is lovely and light and drapey, so I think that's why I didn't really twig it wasn't actually viscose, because it is so drapey and lightweight. It's quite a nice equivalent, and it's sewed up really nicely. I've got some fluff on it there. It's sewed up really nicely, and it's actually worked really well for the top, so it ends up being a happy accident, and I love it. So I made this size extra small, and actually originally when I traced out the pattern pieces, I decided to lengthen it a bit because I wasn't sure how I felt with such a cropped top and how high it would come up on me. I lengthened it quite a lot. I think I lengthened it by about 10 centimetres at least, because I was really not sure about the cropped style. And then when I put it on, before I'd added the elastic, no, I think I did maybe add the elastic in, I can't remember, but anyway, I put it on, and it just didn't feel right longer at all. So I chopped it off, and I chopped it off quite gradually because I didn't want to make a big chop too high and then regret it and have a too cropped top I was never going to wear. I chopped it off gradually, kept adding in the elastic and just trying out at different lengths to see what it really would look like, which took quite a while. It was quite a long process, and in the end I only ended up lengthening it by 2 centimetres, so my final version is only 2 centimetres longer than the original pattern. So there was quite a lot of time wasted in lengthening and then shortening, but it was worth it to come to the right length. And if I had gone with a pattern and it was 2 centimetres shorter, I think it would just feel uncomfortably short on me, particularly because I have got a bit of a longer torso. But anyway, this is my final version and I love it. And yeah, I'll put a picture so you can see what it looked like on. I found the instructions to be really good, really clear and detailed. There's definitely more detail in the PDF pattern instructions than you get in the magazine, but I know with the magazine patterns you can get more detailed instructions online if you do go and download them, so they are there, they just need to be accessed. But yeah, I'm really pleased to have something sewn up in this beautiful print. I think it's gorgeous, and I'm looking forward to wearing it with a pair of jeans or some shorts when the weather gets a little bit warmer. So yeah, that is my sneaker top inspired by Lauren at Guthrie Ghani. So the next make that I've got to share is another garment that I sewed up using a new to me pattern. And this pattern, a bit like the Maeve skirt by True Bias, is a pattern that I've been admiring for a while, ever since it was released. I thought it was a really pretty pattern, but I hadn't got around to sewing it. And I think with this pattern as well, I wasn't quite sure if it was my style or if it would suit me. So I'd seen so many other lovely versions and other people, but yeah, I wasn't just sure if it was for me, even though I really loved the look of it. And then earlier this year, I was having a look through my fabric stash, which isn't very big, but I had a piece of fabric in the stash that I got a while ago from Rainbow Fabrics, and it was quite a decent sized piece of fabric, and I've been wanting to sew it up because I thought it was a really pretty fabric and it seemed a shame for it just be sitting unloved, as it were. And then I thought in my head maybe it would work really well with this particular pattern, and it could give me the opportunity to give this pattern a try and see if it turned out okay. So I thought I'd give it a go. I got the pattern and thought I'd get on with it and just keep my fingers crossed that it would suit me and that it would turn out as I was hoping. And the pattern is this one here. It is the Elodie Wrap Dress by Closet Core Patterns. I think this pattern's been around for a couple of years now. I had a look and I somehow thought it was just last summer that it was released, but it's been around a while and I've seen so many lovely versions. So it's a really pretty wrap dress pattern with some lovely details to it. I'll show you the line drawings. So it's a wrap dress with quite a fitted waist and then grown on sleeves, and you can either make this sort of classic short sleeve version or this longer, sort of more floaty, wider sleeve version. And the bust and the back both have little pleats in to give a little bit of blousiness to the bodice. And it's got a swishy, voluminous skirt, which you can make either as a sort of knee length or midi length or maxi length. And it's secured around the middle with ties. And it's got a really good size range too. I've got the US 0 to 20 version, but there's also a US 14 to 32 version. And it's designed for woven fabrics. And I've seen lots of lovely versions of this in different fabrics. I think it looks great in a really swishy, floaty fabric like a viscose. But I've also seen some lovely versions in a linen too. I think that really shows off all the details really well on this pattern too. So I was really keen to give it a go and hope that it suited me. And I made my version in this fabric here, this lovely viscose fabric from Rainbow Fabrics. As I said, I got this quite a while ago. It's got a black base and these really pretty sort of summery flowers and strawberries on. So it feels like quite a summery fabric, even though it's got the black base. And here is my Elodie dress, which I really enjoyed sewing. And I actually found it came together surprisingly quickly for a wrap dress. I guess there are no sort of buttons or fastenings, it's just pulled in by the waist tie. And the waist tie is a little bit fiddly to insert, but other than that, it felt like it was quite smooth sailing. And what I really liked about this pattern as well was the level of detail in the pattern instructions, particularly around things like where to stay stitch and which direction. Because the skirt is cut as quite a voluminous skirt and it's cut partly, I guess, on the bias, there's a risk that it might kind of stretch out when you sew it, but Closet Core were quite specific about where to stay stitch and which direction to sort of stop that happening as much as possible, which I thought was really good. So yeah, it sewed up really nicely. Hopefully you can see a little bit of the pleating detail there at the front, and there's some at the back. And yeah, it was a really enjoyable sew actually. I omitted the patch pockets, I wasn't sure they'd work in a viscose fabric. And I made the straight size 4. My measurements would put me as a size 2 on the bust, a size 4 on the waist and a size 6 on the hips. I thought the hips measurement probably wasn't too critical because it's designed to be quite a voluminous skirt, so I thought there'd be enough room in there for me to size down to the size 4. And then when I looked at the finished garment measurements inside the pattern envelope, it looked like the waist, there wasn't a lot of ease there, and it's designed to be quite fitted, so I didn't want to size down on the waist, so I decided to size up on the bust to a size 4. And I wasn't sure how that would work and whether it would be a bit too roomy there, but actually it's designed to be a little bit blousy anyway, and I think in the viscose fabric it's absolutely fine as a straight size 4. And when I looked about grading between the sizes, it didn't look like it would be that easy based on how the pattern pieces were drafted, so I'm glad I sort of didn't attempt to grade and went with a straight size 4, and I quite like how it's turned out, and I like the fit around the bodice. And it still feels like there gives enough coverage here and enough sort of pulling in here to kind of not be gapey at the front or anything. I did make a couple of adjustments. The main adjustment I made was, instead of using a facing around the front, which I'm not always a big fan of, particularly in a drapier fabric, I decided to add on bias binding, and I made it visible bias binding to sort of enclose the seams. You can see it down the front here, which is quite enjoyable to put on. It did mean I had to alter the pattern pieces slightly because the facing option includes a seam allowance on the bodice pieces, but because I was just basically enclosing the raw edge, I didn't need any seam allowance there, so I just sort of basically took off the seam allowance all around this part of the bodice where I was adding on the bias binding, if that makes sense, and then just cut the bias binding. I had enough fabric for that. And then the other adjustment I made is I made the midi version by lengthening the skirt by 2 inches, I think, just to bring it down slightly longer, because when I held the pattern pieces on me, it looked like it'd be a shorter midi length, and I wanted slightly longer, swishier midi length, so that's what I went for. And it came together really nicely, and actually I love it, and it feels really nice on. It feels really sort of floaty and feminine and pretty, and I'll put a picture up so you can see what it looks like on. I'm sure I'll wear this one in the UK, just floating around on hot days here, but I'm also really looking forward to taking this one on holiday with me and maybe wearing out to dinner on holiday or something, because we're hoping to go abroad this summer for the first time with my children. So fingers crossed that will all go to plan and I'll be able to sort of float about somewhere hot in this dress with some sandals on or something. Yeah, I really love it actually. It's really enjoyable to sew, and I'd love to revisit it. Maybe I'll try this sleeve version at some point, the more sort of dolman larger sleeve version. I think that'll make a lovely dress if I had a wedding to go to or something like that. But yeah, I love it. I think it works really well in the viscose, and it was really enjoyable to sew. So I've got one more make to share with you in this video. This is my most recent make, and it's another skirt that I made using this pattern here, the Maeve skirt pattern by True Bias. But this is a very different version from my first version. So when this pattern was first released, I loved the idea of making a tiered sort of mini skirt version, which is what I tried out for my first version. But also a few weeks after the pattern had been released, Kelly from True Bias popped up an Instagram post with a really, really cute hack that I really loved the look of. And it was basically to change the Maeve skirt so it was just one tier, and then turn it into a dipped hem skirt with this lovely curved hem that starts high at the sides and then curves down at the front and at the back too. And I thought this skirt had such a lovely shape to it, and it was something a bit different and something I didn't have in my wardrobe, and I really, really fancied giving it a go. So when I got the Maeve pattern, I always had in mind I wanted to make that sort of mini skirt with the ruffles, but I also had in mind I really wanted to make this curved hem hack. And there's a whole tutorial on the True Bias website for doing it, so it holds your hand through how to adjust the pattern piece and how to sew it up. I'll link that tutorial down below, and I'll show you my second Maeve skirt. And I made this second version in a viscose challis again, so lovely and swishy and drapey and perfect I think for this pattern, but it's quite a different fabric to the first one, as you'll see. This is the second fabric I went for, and this is a viscose challis from the Minerva exclusive range, and I was gifted this fabric in exchange for a blog post which is now up on their website, and I'll link it down below in case you fancy having a read. So yeah, this is my Maeve skirt with a curved hem. I love this fabric. I just thought it was so fun and summery, and yeah, just I love all the different colours in. I think it's really, really pretty, and I thought it would be really nice to kind of have quite a bright, bold fabric, but then really showcase the sort of simplicity of the one tiered skirt with this lovely dipped hem at the back, bottom, which you can hopefully see okay. I have to hold it quite high because it's a midi length skirt, so it's quite long. But you can see at the side there, it's got this lovely detail of where the two pieces come together and then split to create this dipped hem. I added on the optional waist tie again, which has just come untied here. It's got the elasticated waistband. I've got the pockets again, so quite a practical skirt with these nice roomy pockets as well. And I just love how it's turned out really. I love the fabric. I love the swish and it feels really nice wearing this one. And I really enjoyed sewing it up actually. One change I made in terms of this skirt, in terms of how I sewed it up, was I used a different method for hemming it than the version that was given in the online tutorial by Bias, because I was really worried with this fabric being quite lightweight and drapey and cut sort of like, I guess, on the bias with this curve, that when I tried to hem it, it would start sort of rippling and it would look it just wouldn't look very well finished. So I had a look on YouTube and came across this cool tutorial for how to do sort of like a rolled hem without a rolled hem foot. I'll link it down below. It worked really well and I found it kind of gave a really nice finish to the bottom and it didn't stretch it out too much because you almost stay stitch it before you start hemming it. It's quite clever how it comes together. I'll definitely use it again if I make a similar hem. So that's how I finished the hem and I'm really happy with the finish now it's turned out. It hasn't turned out ripply and I think it gives a really clean, nice finish to the hem of this curve. So yeah, this is my second Maeve skirt by Bias. Quite different to my first one, but I love them both. Oh, and I'll put a picture up so you can see what this one looks like on. It's obviously a very summery skirt. Well, I guess I could team it with tights and boots for winter, but it's one I think I'm going to save for summery weather and pair it with a vest top like I've done this photo and a pair of flip-flops and that sort of thing. Yeah, I love the Maeve skirt pattern. I'm sure I'll be making more at some point in the future. I'm not sure what style yet, but I love my two I've made so far and I really enjoyed sewing them both. So those are all of the makes I've sewn up for myself over the last couple of months. I hope you've enjoyed hearing about them. I will link all of the patterns and fabrics I mentioned wherever possible down below in case any of them are of interest to you. Thank you so much for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please do give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, please do subscribe. And I'll be back with another video soon. But in the meantime, I hope you have a lovely day and thank you so much again for watching. Bye.